Okay, modern European history. Now you read chapter 11, sections 1 and 2 for today. And in order to understand Europe's geography, you have to understand a little bit about its history in the past. In the borders throughout Europe. So in order to understand the borders, we have to understand history. So, modern European history. People like to talk about, especially guys tend to like this part of history. We're going to talk about First World War. So everybody should have their notebooks out, ready to go, right? And if you don't have your notebooks out, if you don't have paper, better borrow some from somebody. I shouldn't have to remind you. I've said it a couple times now. So, World War One. Does anybody remember from their reading or from their assignment when World War One starts? When does World War One begin? When does it begin, Anna? 1914, correct. It goes from 1914 to 1918. World War One is 1914 to 1918. And at that time, most of Europe was at war with each other. There were a few areas of Europe that did not get involved in World War One, but most of the countries in Europe were at war with each other. Most of Europe was at war with each other in World War One. Into different groups. Let's see here. This group right here. You are a tiny country called Serbia. Okay? Everybody that lives in Serbia here, you are called Serbs. Just like if you live in the United States of America, you are called Americans. You live in Serbia, you are Serbs. It's a country called the Austro-Hungarian Empire, sometimes called Austria-Hungary. Now, there's a part of Austria-Hungary right here, this row here, which has some Serbs in it. It borders Serbia. Here, from this row, right here, a volunteer from this row. You look like you were deathly afraid, but I just need to person over here know what they need to do, okay? Okay, this gentleman over here is next in line to become Emperor of Austria-Hungary. When I die, I'm the Emperor right now. When I die, he becomes Emperor of all Austria-Hungary. His title is Archduke. His to rule. He goes with his wife, and they tour throughout Austria-Hungary, and eventually they come to this region of Austria-Hungary, remember this row here, to a town called Sarajevo. Now, he has a little parade through the streets in his car. Cars were something new back then. They didn't go that fast. And so he's touring. You don't actually drive. You have a driver. You're that rich. Okay? Now, so come on over here and wave to your subjects, wave to your subjects, wave to your subjects. Somebody jumps out, shoots him, and then runs and hides in little tiny Serbia. Serbia and says, you better give him up. You better give us the guy that killed my nephew. Little tiny Serbia goes, no. Austria-Hungary goes, better give him up. But they're like, bring it on. We have a friend that's bigger than you. Our friend is over, and it's all in Miss Severson's class. Its real name is Russia. And if you do something to us, Russia will come after you. The Emperor of Austria decides to send in his troops and declares war on Serbia and says, we will invade if you do not give up the terrorist who was a Serb who killed my nephew. So Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. Serbia's friend, Russia, going to declare war on Russia. Well, if Germany declares war on Russia, Russia's friend, France, will get ready to declare war on Germany. Well, if France is going to get involved, then Germany is going to attack France before France can attack them, and they're going to take a shortcut through the tiny country of Belgium. Friend. Belgium's friend is Great Britain or the United Kingdom. And so they declare war on Germany and Austria-Hungary, and pretty much everybody's at war with everybody in Europe. And it's all because of what? All because of the Serb terrorist that killed Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The entire continent of Europe is at war because of what one person did. In this class, it's Emmett. In other classes, it was other people. Now, that's how World War I begins. We're done with the reenactment. You can go back to your desks. That is how World War I begins. World War I begins as a result of a Serb terrorist attacking and assassinating the heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary. On this map, you will see red, Austria-Hungary, Germany, Turkey, Bulgaria. Those were called the Central Powers. Green was the leads the war early on. However, the Central Powers do lose. So it started by a Serb terrorist, Emmett, in our situation here. It started by a Serb terrorist. One person's actions and then the stubbornness of other groups leads to the entire thing happening. Started by a Serb terrorist, and the Central Powers lose. Germany, Austria-Hungary, Turkey, like back then it was the Ottoman Empire, they lose the war. Now, just a refresher. How does this war start? How does this war start? Just a refresher. How does it start? Okay, evidence being what? The Serb terrorist starts this war. We can't blame him because he didn't serve in Turkey on the weak side. You'd blame Austria-Hungary. No, we're not even going to blame Austria-Hungary. Let's blame Germany. Let's blame Germany, even though they got involved after Russia, after Austria-Hungary, and after the Serb terrorists. But let's blame them. Okay, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, that's the way they did it. Now, imagine you are all now Germans. You all live in Germany. You all live in Germany. You are German. And I am, like Great Britain and France, I am okay? Now, because you started this war, you have to kind of think that this, I think we'll get responsibility for the war. How big your army is. Oh, we'll also tell you how many ships you have, so that you don't get too many ships than we do. Oh! We'll also tell you where you can and cannot put your own soldiers within your country. There are places in your country that you can't have your own soldiers because it's too close to some of the other countries. Oh, and one last thing. You have to pay us back for all the damages during the war. You have to pay for our part of the war, too. Are you guys happy about that? No. They were very unhappy with it, especially since, was the war their fault? No. And what happens as a result of these punishments? You're severely punished. They have to pay back the other countries that they were at war with. Well, in order to pay it back, since they didn't have that much money because they were fighting a war, wars are expensive, they decided, let's print some more money. Well, the worth of something, is something worth more or less if you have a lot of it around? If you have a lot of something, is it worth more or less? It's worth less because it's not as rare. Rare things, things that aren't available as readily available, are worth more. So the more money you print, the less value the money has. It gets so bad that there are times people would wallpaper their walls with money because it was cheaper to buy wallpaper. They would burn it in their furnaces, in their stoves, because it was cheaper to burn the money than it was for that kind of money. Germany was in a very bad situation as a result of this. And at the end of World War I, the United States president at the time, they hate each other, but the leaders make sure that they don't fight amongst themselves. They'll have sort of a dictatorship to make sure that the people there don't kill each other. Eventually, they do start killing each other. We'll get into that in in a week or two. Yes. It happened before the end of World War I. That's why 1917. The four people in Russia rebelled. The Tsar. Tsar is the Russian word for emperor. And then afterwards, it wasn't quite as fancy. It used to be where all the rich people would go shopping before the revolution. Yep. On that picture. Okay, poor people rebel against the Tsar in Russia. Communism promises two things. One of the promises of communism. One of the promises of communism. Okay, good. We talk about everybody is equal. Equality for everyone, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of the language you speak, regardless of your gender. Ladies, I'm sorry to be the one to break it to you, but in the United States in 1917, you were considered too stupid to vote. In 1917, you were not allowed to vote in the United States because men and many women thought that it was too difficult for your brains to make a decision. So we don't want to hurt you by letting you think and vote. You're too delicate. We don't want to hurt that brain of yours. That was the thought in the United States in 1917. You don't get the right to vote in the United States until the 1920s. In Russia, under communism, you could vote. 1917. You could vote. Women were equal. Women could do any job a man could do. That wasn't the case in the United States. That wasn't the case. According to communism, women and men are equal. There is no difference. They can do everything. There were lots. Most doctors in the Soviet Union were women. not supposed to see men's arms or their legs. Swimming suits back in the early or late 1800s, early 1900s went from wrist to ankle, covering everything for men and women. Those were swimming suits because you weren't supposed to see any skin. Equality for everyone, even women. They also said this: no rich, no poor. Nobody is going to be rich, nobody's going to be poor. Everybody will be equal. Everybody will have the same amount of money. Everybody will have free education, including college. Everybody will have free medical care. Everybody will have a place to live that they pay only a small amount of money for. Everybody will be able to afford food because the government will control the prices of the food, so nobody can charge more than what the government says, so everybody can get food. That was what communism promised. Equality for everyone, no rich, no poor. Yeah. Not necessarily. Many of the apartment buildings were. There are very few variations. Yeah, very few variations. Cars, there wasn't a big variation on cars and things like that. But communism promised equality for everyone and no rich, no poor. So if you were in Europe and you were homeless, you were hungry, would that appeal to you? Yeah, it would. Yeah, certainly it would. And so that's the idea behind communism. Now keep that in mind as we talk about it later on throughout the year. Communism, this idea of equality for everyone, no rich. Italy, 1942, they spread all the way up that you see on here that is red. That is because that's Switzerland. Now, Germany starts the war. Germany starts the war, and Hitler did not have a campaign saying, vote for me, I will kill Jewish people. He did not campaign like that. I know some of you are laughing, fine. But it's true. He did not campaign, I will kill Jews. He campaigned to say, I will make sure everybody has enough money. That's work for them. I will rebuild our army. I will within our country that I want to. I will cancel all the punishments from World War I. Would you vote for a guy that said that after what you've been through? Yeah. Only after he won the election, and he did some trickery and tricking people into voting for him, but only after that does he become a dictator and then start focusing on murdering people, Jews, Poles, homosexuals, gypsies. It wasn't just Jews. 6 million Jews, 5 million Polish people. Uh, Difficult question. One, two, eighth grade. That's a big chunk of eighth grade. Germany starts it, and as we said, and as you told me, World War II is caused by German punishment after World War One. President Wilson was correct. Don't punish Germany. We'll have another war. France and Great Britain didn't listen, and we all paid the consequence. Just imagine what the world would be like if they didn't punish Germany after World War One, or if Emmett didn't shoot the one guy that started World War One. Yeah, thanks, Emmett. No. World War II is caused by the German punishment of World War One. Things would have been a lot different had that not happened. Germany wouldn't have any reason to elect Hitler, and things would be a lot different. Germany loses, as you know. Germany loses World War II. And just like in World War I, the countries and borders in Europe change. Some borders change. Some countries get bigger, some get smaller. Some countries get shifted from one location to another. So Europe's borders change again. I know, that'd be odd. The entire country gets shifted over. And what that means is that everybody has to move with the country. It happened. There were massive amounts of people that had to walk hundreds of miles because their country got moved. Here's a map before World War II. Pay special attention over here along the border with the Soviet Union or the USSR. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland. Pay special attention to that region as I change the map. Poland got a little smaller and got shifted, but notice what happens to Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Bye-bye, as somebody said. Yeah, because at the beginning of World War II, the Soviet Union and Hitler worked together to divide up Europe. When Hitler moved in this way, the Soviet Union went in this way. They said, okay, let's divide it up. And if you watch, as I change the map now, you eventually go, you'll see Soviet Union got its part and got to hold on to it even after the war. Because eventually the Soviet Union became our friend in the war. Notice East Germany and West Germany, two different Germanys now. Poland, is the borders changed, and then a lot of countries just disappeared. Soviet Union. Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, just like USA is United States of America. Yep. After World War II, we get something called the Cold War. And you read about that for today, too. A Cold War is different than a hot war. A hot war, let's say that Mustafa and I hate each other. If we were two countries and we were in a hot war, we would fight each other directly. Boom, 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 boom. But the problem is, both Mustafa and I have nuclear weapons, and if we use that, then we destroy the entire world and nobody wins. So, we choose different people that are fighting amongst themselves anyway and help them. So, if Ariel here is at war with William, I will help William so that he can win, while Mustafa helps Ariel win. And so we're really fighting each other. Mustafa and I are fighting, but we're fighting indirectly. We're fighting through other people. They're doing the fighting. We get to stand back and watch. That's the Cold War. The Cold War is the Soviet Union and the West battling each other in different locations without actually fighting. That's what the Cold War is. Communist Russia, which becomes known as the Soviet Union, takes over all of Eastern Europe. Poland, Czechoslovakia, Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary, all become little puppets. They all become controlled. Your book called them satellites of the Soviet Union. They can't do anything without the Soviet Union giving them permission. And if they backtalk to the Soviet Union, if they don't do what the Soviet Union wants them to, the Soviet Union will send in their tanks and take them out. And that happened a couple times in Eastern Europe, where the people said, no, we don't want to be controlled by the Soviet Union anymore, so the Soviet Union sent in tanks. And sorry to say, unarmed people on the streets versus tanks, tanks normally win. So we had Eastern Europe controlled by the Soviet Union. And so they all became communist. Western Europe became free. Each country got to choose its own path, so to speak. France, Great Britain, Spain, Portugal, Belgium, the Netherlands, Italy, they all get to choose their own path. But the Soviet Union controls Eastern Europe. But where Eastern Europe and Western Europe meet, there's a country there. What country is there that gets divided during the Cold War after World War II? It's divided. What? Berlin is the city, but the country that it's located in is Ariel? Germany. They divide Germany up. There's East Germany and West Germany. East Germany is communist, controlled by the Soviet Union, and West Germany is free, not controlled by anybody but the capital. Berlin is divided into East and West because the people in East Germany didn't like their government. They didn't like being controlled by the Soviet Union. Many of them started to walk troops right across